ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासवी गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back, and we have now reached the last chapter, 18th chapter in this particular series. And as usual, we will commence with the verse of Sripad Yamunacharya, where he summarizes the 18th chapter, and then we will enter the commentary and also compare it with Prabhupada's commentary on this particular chapter. So this is the verse of Gita Sangraha, as per Yamunacharya, the summary of the 18th chapter. It goes like this: Ishvare kartrita buddhihi sattvopadeya antime swakarma parinamascha shastra sarartha uchyate. So Yamunacharya says there are 4 topics in this 18th chapter. The first is Ishvare kartrita buddhihi. That means the Lord is the doer. He is the main doer, so to speak. And we are like his instrument. So this is the first topic as per him. We will see the verses where this thing comes up. This is the first topic. Second thing is Sattopayeda. That means one should abide in Sattva Guna only. That means as far as possible one should lead a sattvic life. So that is the second topic. The third topic is Swakarma Parinama. That means Karma Yoga ultimately will take you to moksha. That means from Karma Yoga and Varnashrama, ultimately one will go towards moksha only. And fourth is Shastra Sarartha. That means the essence of the scripture, which is obviously Sarvadharman Parityaja, 18.66. So in this way, there are 4 topics, he says. Krishna is the main doer. We should, as far as possible, stick to Sattva Guna. Karma Yoga ultimately will take us to moksha and the essence of the scripture. Right? So 4 topics are there. So what is the connection? So if you recall, we have already said that the 16th, 17th, and 18th chapter are considered like an appendix to the. In fact, the entire last 6 chapters are considered an appendix to the first 12 chapters, where 13, 14, and 15 were talking mainly about the various Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, like that. Tattva, that is called as Tattva. And 16, 17, 18 are talking about Hita. Hita means what is beneficial. Upaya, as in how to achieve it. Basically the yoga system. Okay. So in the first 6 chapters, it was Karma Yoga leading towards moksha, which was said. In the middle 6 chapters, it was about bhakti. And in the last 6 chapters, Ramanujan Yamuna divided into two parts. 13, 14, 15 are talking about certain concepts like Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, which were not sufficiently elaborated. And 16, 17, 18 were talking about Upaya or the yoga system. Now, how are 16, 17, and 18 talking about Upaya or yoga system? So, if you remember the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it essentially Krishna says one should act as per Shastra. And that is the entire discussion in the 16th chapter. Krishna is emphasizing that act only as per Shastra and don't go away from Shastra. Krishna is repeatedly warning. And when you say Shastra, then Shastra speaks things in three modes: Sattogun, Rajogun, Tamogun. And that was spoken in the 17th chapter. So, 16th chapter, Krishna told Arjuna that if you adhere to Shastra, then you are Sura, otherwise you are Asura. And in the 17th chapter, he said that whatever is in Shastra, that itself is divided into three modes: the three gunas, the Sattoguna, the Rajoguna, and the Tamoguna. So, towards the culmination of the 17th chapter, it is becoming clear that not only we have to stick to Shastra, but we have to stick to Shastra which is Sattoguna. So, there are Shastra which is Rajoguna, Tamoguna, etc. Correct? So, that has already been spoken in the 17th chapter. But one doesn't get any benefit by doing those activities in Shastra which are in Rajoguna, Tamoguna. If one wants moksha, if one wants liberation, going back to Godhead, whatever you want to say, then you have to stick to things which are in Sattoguna. So that is the connection between 16, 17 and 18th chapter. So the 18th chapter, what is going to happen is Krishna is first going to start talking about Tyaga, Tyaga and Sannyasa. So whereby the whole understanding is that how in Sattva-guna one should do one's activities. And what is the way of doing in Sattva-guna? Thinking oneself to be the instrument of the Lord. So that is the first thing. Krishna is the doer. That means in Sattva-guna, one sees oneself as an instrument of the Lord. How that is, we will be seeing as we will go into the verses. Okay, so that is the first theme. And this again goes into those 5 causes which Krishna mentions, and ultimate cause is Daiva, which is again him only. So that is why that is the first topic. The second topic is Sattva-guna only should be accepted. Sattva-guna only should be accepted. One should abide in Sattva-guna. So there are 3 modes. See, now interestingly, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has not mentioned a direct verse saying that, hey, you should stick only to Sattva-guna. He has not done that. Right? Krishna has spoken the 3 modes in terms of consequences. But then when he talks in terms of consequences, it becomes amply clear that one should stick to Sattva-guna only. It is just like, suppose if there are 3 foodstuffs and someone is asking, which food I should eat? And then someone tells, hey, look, if you eat this food, then you will have dysentery. If you eat this food, there will be a lot of acidity in your body. But if you eat this food, then you will be healthy. It is obvious that one should take the third choice only and not the first and the second. So similarly, Krishna has spoken in terms of consequences, but it becomes amply clear that Krishna is telling Arjuna to abide in Sattva-guna. So that is the second topic. That is another 10-15 verses are there in the 18th chapter for that. Third topic is how Karma Yoga ultimately will take you to Mukti. Okay, so this is again a beautiful summary of the entire Gita Krishna has put in the 18th chapter, where Krishna starts with Karma Yoga, takes you to Jnana Yoga, and ultimately to Bhakti. Right? Krishna takes you and reminding us that one cannot forget whatever was told in this particular scripture. And then the ultimate thing is the fourth topic is the essence of this particular whole Bhagavad Gita, which is 18.66, which we will do it in great detail. Right? So this is the summary of this particular chapter as given by Sripad Yamunacharya. Right. Now let's go into the verses and see the translations and have the discussion. So 18th chapter, verse number 1, Arjuna Vacha, Sannyasasya Mahabaho Tattvam Ichchami Veditum Tyagasya Cha Rishikesha Pritak Kesi Nishudana. Okay. So here again the translation is very similar to Srila Prabhupada's translation. Arjuna asks, O mighty armed Vasudeva, O Rishikesha, the one who controls the indriyas of your devotees, O slayer of the demon Keshi, I desire to understand the true import of the terms sannyasa and tyaga, and whether these terms have the same meaning or do they convey a different meaning. Okay, so Arjuna is starting this chapter by talking about two things which is very commonly said in our scriptures. One is tyaga and one is sannyasa. Okay, so Ramanuja starts his commentary here by referring to various Upanishads. So there is an Narayana Upanishad, it seems, in which there is a verse. In all traditional sannyasis, when they come somewhere, this verse is recited when they arrive. It's like a verse that you know it is recited whenever they arrive. The verse basically says in the Upanishad, Sannyasa yoga yadya chutta sattvate parabrahma loke tu paranta kale paramritat parimunchantu sarve. This is a verse in the Narayana Upanishad which basically says that sannyasa gives the parabrahma realization, which is considered the most nectarian realization. Okay, so this is a verse in an Upanishad, which is a very famous verse, which in all traditional schools, whenever a sannyasi arrives, they will recite this verse. Sannyasi yoga yatya chutta sattva te parabrahma loke tu parantakare paramritat parimucchantu sarve. Like that. But there is also another verse in the same Upanishad which talks about the importance of tyaga. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage neka amrutatva manusha. So it says, this verse says, the same Narayana Upanishad only, it says, one cannot get the Lord, one cannot get Sri Krishna by karma. Just if you think that I will do my karma and I'll get the Lord, sorry, you're not going to get the Lord by karma. And that's not going to happen. That is the first thing that is said. Second thing, na prajaya, not that if you have a lot of children you will get. Na dhanena, if you are very rich. Tyage neka amrutatva manusha. You have to have the tyaga bhava. Only then one can get deathlessness or moksha, liberation, going to the spiritual world. So these are verses in the scriptures which talk about tyaga and talk about sannyasa. Okay, so there are verses in the scriptures that talk about both these things. Hence Arjuna is asking this question. Now somebody may say, okay, these are verses are there in the scriptures. Has Krishna said anything like that in the Bhagavad Gita? Of course he has said. If you go back to the Bhagavad Gita, right from the second chapter, there are so many verses in which Krishna talks about tyaga. Right? For example, I'll tell you 2.51 Bhagavad Gita, if you see Karmajam Buddhi Yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishina janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchanti anamaya. Krishna says that one who can do tyaktva, give up, which is basically tyaga only, then one gets the ultimate liberation. Like that Krishna has said in the second chapter. Then in the fourth chapter also Krishna has used the word tyaga. This is in 4.20. Krishna says tyaktva karma phalasangam nitya tripto nirashreya. Tyaktva again means tyaga. Then again in the 17th chapter also, when Krishna was speaking about Sattva-guna, Krishna was speaking about tyaga only. Sattva-guna basically means to give up the desire for fruit and so on. So Krishna has spoken about tyaga repeatedly in the Bhagavad Gita. Has anywhere the word sannyas come like that? If you see, then it turns out that yes. Okay, so if you go back to the Bhagavad Gita, if you see in the third chapter, text number 30, right? Mayi sarvani karmani sannyasya chetasa. Krishna uses that term sannyasa there. Where of course sannyasya can also mean giving up completely, but that's what sannyasa means. Nyasa means to give up, sannyasa means to completely give up. Okay, and even Arjuna, if you remember, he had caught hold of this word, because of which Arjuna had asked in the 5th chapter, Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam cha samyasi. You told me first to do sannyas and then you told me to do yoga, which is better. Like that Arjuna is asking. Okay, even if you see carefully, in the 6th chapter also, Krishna talks about the first verse only of the 6th chapter, Anashrita Karma Phalam. He talks about who is a sannyasi, saying that Anashrita Karma Phalam, that person only is a sannyasi. Right? So, like that, he talks about it. So, the point is, these terms sannyasa and tyaga have come repeatedly in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, because of which And so we see on one hand, we see that in the Vedanta, in the Upanishads, these two terms are there, sannyas and tyaga. And in the Gita also, these two terms have come, sannyas and tyaga. Okay, hence Arjuna is having some confusion between these two terms. Are they the same or are they different? So that is why he is starting this chapter. That's how he is starting this particular chapter. Now let's look at Krishna's answer. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sanyasam Kavayo Vituho Sarvakalva Phalatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. Bhagavan Sri Krishna replies, some wise persons opine that sannyas, also known as tyaga, is the complete renunciation of all actions which are motivated by desire for material rewards like heaven, etc. Some other scholars who have capacity for deep understanding hold that tyaga, also known as sannyasa, is relinquishing only the material benefits of all actions. Okay, so here again the translation is similar to Prabhupada's translation. The translation, but the commentary is having several aspects which we generally don't discuss. So Ramanuja starts his commentary very interestingly, which the way he starts his commentary, he is going to be related to the future verses also. You know, this kamya karma, this particular word comes, right? Kamya karma. So basically, in the entire Vedic thought process, there are three types of karma which has been said. One is called nitya karma, one is called naimittika karma, one is called kamya karma. Okay, three things are said. Nitya means one has to do literally daily or regularly. Basically, Nitya means predictable. Predictably, it has to be done. So there are many examples, I'll give you that. Naimittika means at different points it may come. And Kamya means to do something out of desire. So the standard examples for Nitya Karma are, for example, the Sandhya, the Gayatri, the Agnihotra. These are all considered Nitya Karma. Even Ammavasya Tarpana, for example, every Ammavasya Tarpana has to be done. That is also Nitya Karma. Okay, for example, now this whole Pitra Paksha is there. Now, this is all Nitya Karma. Nitya means what? Nitya means predictable timing ke hisab se, you know, there are many things that are said in the Shastra one has to do. That is called Nitya Karma. That is the first thing. Second is Naimittika Karma. Naimittika Karma means the point is not fixed. Once a while it can come. Like, for example, eclipses. So when eclipse comes, there is a particular dharma, how to behave during an eclipse, etc. That is called Naimittika Karma. And third is called Kamya Karma. Kamya Karma means, for example, to do a sacrifice called Jyotishtoma sacrifice to go to the heavenly planets. That is Kamya Karma. Right. Now, anything under Varnashram is classified into these three, mind you. Nitya, Naimittika, and Kamya Karma. Okay, everything, whether it is marriage, whether it is, for example, even a king does Rajasuya Yajna, right? So it will come under one of these three only. Most likely it will be Kamya Karma. Rajasuya Yajna, Ashwamedha Yajna, Maharaj Yudhishthira did Ashwamedha Yajna. It is not Nitya Karma. It is not that the king has to do that every day or he has to do that at certain fixed points. But he could choose to do it. There are so many kings who did not do an Ashwamedha Yajna, but there are some kings who did it. So like that. So Ashwamedha Yajna. So everything under Varnashram basically is classified as Nitya, Naimittika, and Kamya Karma. That's it. So these three are the only way in which everything is put under. Okay. So for a Kshatriya, for example, to rule his kingdom, for Arjuna to do his fighting, etc., it is Naimittika Karma because Kshatriya means time to time there will be war. Correct. It is not Nitya because it's not fixed time and it is not Kamya also. It is not that the Kshatriya chooses to have a war, but sometimes it's forced. Naimittika means time to time, at unpredictable times, that situation will come where you'll have to do it. So for a Kshatriya to engage in war is, for example, Naimittika Karma. So my point is, anything under Varnashram, you can classify it as Nitya, Naimittika, and Kamya. Okay, regular, predictable, unpredictable, but at different times and out of desire. So three things are. So this is how it is. Okay, now what is sannyas? So Krishna is saying here, Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Vituhu. Sannyasa generally refers to giving up of Kamya Karma. Okay, so he's saying, Krishna is saying like that. People generally understand karma, sannyasa as giving up Kamya Karma. For example, marriage or something like that may be seen as kamya by some. So sannyas, one may think that we have to give up that. Okay. So that is how, now see, now the interesting thing here is Ramanujacharya points out, even for a sannyasi, it is only the kamya karma which is kind of he may give up. But nitya naimittika karma, even he has to do. Okay, so please observe that. So that's why even a sannyasi has to, like, that's why, we have said this many times. Like, if you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even as a sannyasi, he does the Sandhya Vandana duties that a Brahmana does, right? Because that is Nitya Karma of a sannyasi, of a Brahmana. So, even if he's a sannyasi, he cannot give up that Nitya Karma. He keeps doing it. Okay. So, this is one approach. So, first approach is what? Which is being spoken here. So, there are four approaches which will come in this verse and in the next verse. First approach is Nitya and Naimitika karma must always be done, but Kamya karma can be given. Okay, so this is first approach, which Krishna is calling as sannyasi. Right? Which is generally, if you see, that's why even all the Vaishnavas who take sannyas also, they will take this approach only. Where Nitya Naimitika karma they will do, but Kamya karma they may give up. Right? Kind of. Then there is a second approach, which Krishna says in this verse only. Sarva karma phalatyagam prahustyagam vichakshana. Now, sarva karma phalatyagam means you give up all the fruits of action, but you will do all three. Okay, so that is implicit. That means you will do nitya karma, you will do naimitika karma, you will do kamya karma also. But what you will not do is, you will not be attached to the fruits of the action. Okay, so person will get married, he will do Rajasuya Yajna, if he's a Kshatriya, he will do Ashwamedha Yajna, he may do some various sacrifices, everything will be done. But he's not doing all this in order to go to the heavenly planet. Like Yudhishthira Maharaj is doing Ashwamedha Yajna or Rajasuya Yajna not because he wants to go to the heaven. He is doing it without any attachment to the fruit. So this is like a second approach, you can say. Okay, so first approach is Nitya Naimitika will be done, but Kamya will not be done. Second approach is, I will do all three, but I will not be attached to the fruit of the action. Okay, I will not be attached to the fruit of the action. Why? Because each of these things have a fruit of action also. For example, if you are a Kshatriya and if you live like a Kshatriya properly, you will get heavens. If you are a Brahmana who does Sandhya daily and whatever, any of the three Varnas, if you do Sandhya daily, then one becomes a Prajapati, it is said. So there are many fruits of these actions which are given in the Vedas. Okay, but Krishna, so second approach is you will do all three, but you will give up the attachment to the result. Okay, so this is the second approach. So let us see, some more things are there. So just remember these two. We need to discuss this a little bit more. Now verse number 3. Tyajyam dosha vidyeke karma prahur manishinaha yajnadana tapak karma natyajyam iti chapare. So now in the first line here, Krishna is talking about the third approach. So what is the third approach? Let us see. Some, like the Sankhyas and also some Vedikas, state that one who aspires for liberation should not undertake yajnas and other works which are stipulated in the scriptures, as these works are beset with evils like desire and violence, and hence they will cast a blemish on the doer. Okay, I'm reading only half the translation. Okay, so Krishna is saying in the first part of the third verse, the third approach. What is the third approach? Which is the approach of the Sankhya. And this is also the approach of the Advaita Sampradaya. What is their approach? If you want liberation, you should not do any of these karma which are stated in the scriptures, because any karma has some evil with it. Okay, that is why in Advaita Sampradaya, if you see in their sannyas, if you see in Advaita Sampradaya, for them, everything begins with sannyas only. First, you have to give up everything. And only then you can start talking about Brahman or anything. Okay, it's not that you are having a family and all that. Then what they say is, if you are a Brahmana, you are having a family also. What your only hope is in the next life, you will take sannyas and eventually you will get moksha. But without, and everybody. So from Advaita perspective, the Sankhya, Vedika, these perspectives, this is the third perspective. They will not do Nitya karma, they will not do Naimitika karma, they will not do Kamya karma. Nothing they will do. So that is why in the Advaita Sampradaya, the sannyasi doesn't even have a sacred thread. Do you know that? Like even the Shankaracharyas, if you see, they don't have sacred thread. Because even remaining a Brahmana and doing the duties of a Brahmana is seen as some fault only. You are still stuck. That's their point. Their point, anything done in the world, you want to be you are a Kshatriya, no question only of getting moksha, as per them. But as per them, if you are a Kshatriya, you are doing all this Rajasuya, Yajna, Ashwamedha Yajna, so much violence is there, this, that, you cannot get moksha. You are a Brahmana also. You are involved in all this Tarpana, you are involved in Sandhya, all these things, no question of moksha. So that, see, please note, these verses now, which are said by Krishna are actually implemented like that in Sampradayas. So if you see all the Advaita Sampradaya, they actually, the sannyasi doesn't have a sacred thread. They don't have a shikha. They cut the shikha, they give up the sacred thread at the time of sannyas. Okay? Because they will not do any karma. Literally. They will not do nitya karma, nemitika karma, kamya karma. Nahi chalega unko sab. So this is the third approach. Okay, so I'm just recapping. The previous verse, Krishna first what he said, give up, do nitya and nemitika, but give up kamya karma. Second is, do all three, but give up the attachment to the fruits. And the third thing which he's saying now is, which is done by the Sankhya's or the Advaitavadis, is give up everything. Nitya, Naimitika, Kamya, because everything has some blemish. Okay, that is their perspective. And the second part of this verse, let's see what Krishna says. Other excellent scholars hold the following view that yajna, charity, and austerities which are sanctioned in the Shastra should not be given up by those who are seeking liberation. Okay, so now in the fourth part, the later part of text 3, Krishna is saying that other scholars, what they say, nothing which is said in the Shastra should be given up. If the Shastra says something is must be done, you cannot give it up, whatever it may be. So nobody can give up anything in the Shastra. Okay. Now somebody may say, this not same as the second one, because in the 18th chapter, verse 2, previous verse, Krishna has said that you do all three, but give up the fruit of action. So here in the commentary, what Ramanuja says is, you cannot give up nitya karma, nemitika karma, and kamya karma, but what you need to do is, you need to have three types of tyagas. Okay, so this basically comes in the next verse. I will be elaborating on that. Okay, three type of tyagas Krishna starts talking about. Okay, so we will see that. Okay, that will come in the next verse. That will get elaborated in the next verse. But this is what. So there are four views. Remember, I'll just tell the four views and then we will go into the fourth. First one Krishna said is, do nitya nemitika but give up kamya. Third is, do all three but don't be attached to the fruits of action. Third is, give up all three. Give up nitya karma, nemitika karma, kamya karma, like the Advaita sannyasi. And the fourth is, do all three, nitya nemitika karma, kamya karma, but you must have three types of tyaga. Okay, so this is a very, very interesting commentary here. Okay, three types of tyaga they basically talk about. Now, what are these three types of tyaga? Okay, we will see that. So this is a fresh perspective here. It comes in the verse, but the way they explain it is coming from the Gita only. We will see that three types of tyaga. Okay, so this is the thing. So these verses of the Gita are actually, if you see, various sampradayas have implemented these verses. Like Advaitavadis have actually implemented the first line in this verse by giving up all three. Okay. Or the Vaishnavas, for example, they have implemented keeping sacred thread even after sannyas. Because they say, no, nitya karma you have to do. See, keeping the sacred thread after sannyas is not just to show that you're a Brahmana. One has to do those duties of a Brahmana, which is the Sandhya, etc. Which is why you see every Vaishnava sannyasi keeps doing those karma, nitya karma he does. He doesn't give that up. There's a very big difference between the Vaishnava sannyasi and the Advaita sannyasi. Okay. And furthermore, another thing which, which you will see in especially the Madhva Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya, etc. is, that they will not give up anything which is said in the Shastra. That means in the Shastra, if some yajna is there, correct? That yajna may be for going to the heaven. but they will do those yajnas also, even the Vaishnavas. So their point is, because it is said in the scripture, we will do it, but without attachment of going to heaven. Okay, we will do it just to please Krishna. So that is their perspective, and that perspective they take from this verse of the Gita. That anything which is in the scripture, you will have to do it. So that's why, for example, in the Sri Sampradaya, for the marriages, everybody has to get married. You cannot take sannyas in their thing. You cannot take sannyas without marriage, because marriage is there in the scripture. It may be kamya karma, but it is there, and you have to do it. You have to go through marriage. So they actually implement this with that particular thought process. That anything in the scripture, because it is said in the scripture, you must do it. Okay, if you are a Kshatriya, you have to fight. You have to, if you are a Vaishya, so whatever, according to the Varnashrama duty, one cannot give up anything that is said in the scripture, including Kamya Karma. Okay, but don't do it for that desire. Okay, do it just as a pleasure to the Lord, like how Yudhishthira Maharaj did Rajasuya Ashwamedha. He didn't do it to go to the heavenly planets. He did it simply to please Krishna. Like that one must do. So what I'm saying is, various sampradayas have taken various thoughts from these verses only, and they have implemented it in their whatever practices. Now, anyway, let's discuss something more important: the three types of tyaga, which is in this particular verse. Okay, so now we are coming to 18th chapter, text number 5. Nischayam shrunume tatra tyage bharata sattama tyago hi purusha vyagra trivida samprakirtitaha. Hey Arjuna, best among the descendants of Bharata lineage, O greatest among men, hear from me, who is free from any defects like delusion, on the conclusion concerning the topic of tyaga, also called sannyas. Tyaga indeed, that is threefold, consisting of phalatyaga, mamata tyaga, and kartritva buddhi tyaga, has already been described by me in detail in Adhyaya 3. Okay, now here there is one difference in the translation. In Prabhupada's translation, Trivida, this word Trivida, Prabhupada translates it as renunciation in the three modes, Tyaga in three modes, Sattvagun, Rajogun, Tamogun. What Ramanujari has done is, he has said Tyaga, Trivida, he says, there are three aspects of Tyaga. Okay. Which is Phalatyaga, Mamata Tyaga, Kartritva Buddhi Tyaga. You know what that is, I'll tell you. And Samprakirtita actually in Sanskrit means already described. So he says already described, where is it described? Somebody will say. So he says it has been described in the 3rd chapter Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so we will go back to that verse and we will see. So let's try to understand what is this three types of Tyaga first. Okay, which is like very elaborately described in their commentary. First type of tyaga is kartritva buddhi tyaga. Kartritva buddhi tyaga, which Krishna has said many times in Gita, is don't think yourself to be the doer. Kartritva. Kartritva buddhi means I am the doer. Okay. So in the 3rd chapter, Krishna has said it, right? Like for example, if you see 3.27 Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasya. Right? Just because of ahankara, you think that you are the doer. Correct? So kartritva buddhi tyaga means I am not the karta, the Lord is the karta. That is the point here. It's not that the three moods, but the Lord is. Like for example, Krishna says in the 11th chapter, right? Nimitta matram bhava savya sachin. Krishna tells Arjuna. So what is Krishna telling Arjuna? You act as my instrument. That means you are not the doer now. I am the doer. I am going to do things through you. Krishna has said that, right, to Arjuna. Ramanujari's perspective is, this is Tyaga. Tyaga means you do everything what you are supposed to do as per scripture, but do it being the Lord's instrument. That means understand that He is only the doer, He is using me like an instrument. In many ways, in many of our pujas and rituals also, the same thing is there. Like for example, when we sit for deity worship, one important thing in sitting for deity worship is to spiritualize the senses and to sit there thinking that I am not doing all this puja. The entire Guru Parampara is using me as an instrument to do this puja. Okay, so when you say entire Guru Parampara, it actually goes back to the Lord. That means the understanding is the Lord is only using my body and my senses as an instrument to do puja to Him. Okay, so literally speaking, in that puja process, in the Archana Vidhi, the person who is offering puja, the ingredients, the Lord, they are all part of the same Brahman only. That means there is a oneness in that. Okay, so there are such meditations which even we do in our like in Shaligram puja and so many other puja. We actually think that the spiritual master is actually doing everything, or the parampara is doing everything, and I am only an instrument over here. I am not the doer. Right? I am doing it on their behalf. That means the Lord is only wanting me to do all this for His pleasure, and I have only become an instrument now. Okay, so this concept is there in the Gita in several places, as I quoted, and this is called Kartritva Buddhi Tyaga. Kartritva Buddhi Tyaga. Kartritva, is a very simple word in Sanskrit. Kartritva means thinking oneself to be the doer. Kartritva Buddhi means the Buddhi where you think you are the doer, and Tyaga means to give that up. That means don't think that you are the doer. The Lord only is the doer, He is using you as an instrument. So this is the first Tyaga called Kartritva Buddhi Tyaga. There is another Tyaga, I'll show you the verse of that, Mamata Tyaga. This comes several places in the Gita where Krishna says Nirmamo. Nirmamo, right? Nirmamo, Nirahankara. Like that, many places Krishna says Nirmama. I'll show you 3.30 as an example. But that is called Mamata Tyaga. Mamata Tyaga means this activity which is being done is not for my pleasure. It is for the Lord's pleasure. Okay, the activity itself. Okay, the action. That means if Arjuna is a Kshatriya, he is doing the duty of a Kshatriya as a pleasure to the Lord. That action of fighting is pleasure to the Lord. That is Nirmama. That means the action is not for me. The action is for His pleasure. Okay, this is Nirmama, Mamata Tyaga. That means I am not doing things for my pleasure, but I am doing things for His pleasure. If you have this Tyaga, then you have Mamata Tyaga. Third is Phalat Tyaga. Okay, Phalat Tyaga is the simplest one to understand. Phalat Tyaga means what? The outcome of the activity is not for me. Okay, the outcome of the activity is an offering to Krishna. Outcome, Phala. Okay, so whatever that is. Phalat Tyaga. Which again is there, Nirashir, right? So many places in the Gita, Krishna says Nirashir. Nirashir means that thing, the fruit, the phala which is there is not for me. Krishna uses the word phala also several times, correct, in the Gita. So all these three things Krishna has spoken in several places in the Gita. If you go back from the first chapter to the 17th chapter, all this has been spoken about. And there are three different things. One is to think that I am not the doer, Krishna is using me as an instrument. Second is this action is being done as pleasure to the Lord. Third is the outcome of the action, the fruit, that is also for His pleasure only, it's not for me. So this is what Ramanuja talks as Trividha Samprakirtita. Samprakirtita means already it has been said earlier. So many times Krishna is basically wanting to tell Arjuna all these three things. I have already told you many times in the Gita before. Correct. It has come so many places, these three terms have actually come. Correct. I mean, just to give you one example, I'll take this 3.30 Bhagavad Gita. Right, if you see. Yeah, so if you just see this 3.30 Bhagavad Gita, which I'm just projecting. One second now. Yeah, so this is 3.30. I'm just gone back 3.30. This is one example. There are so many places where Krishna speaks all this, but this is one example. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yuddhasva vigadachara. Look at that. With a clear understanding of the real nature of the Jivatman, dedicate all your actions unto me. Become free from the desire to enjoy your actions. Become free from the feeling that you are owner of the action and fight. Free from the fever of anxiety regarding what the beginningless karmas will result in. Anyway, I'm not going to explain this verse, but here, all three have come. If you see, Mai Sarvani Karmani, Sanyasyadhyatma Chetasa. The first line is actually talking about Kartritva Buddhi Tyaga. That means Sanyasyadhyatma Chetasa. Sanyasyadhyatma Chetasa means the action which I'm doing, I'm not the doing. Krishna is only doing it through me. That is the first thing. Nirashir. This word Nirashir means what? The result of the action is not for me. Nirmama. That means the action itself is not for me. Right? So this is what I was saying. Okay, so in this way, All these three things have already been spoken by Krishna in many places in the Gita. So I just took one example of that. One second. I'll go back to my 18th chapter. Just give me a second. Yeah. Okay. So this is what Krishna is talking here as the three types of tyaga. So this is a very different translation because generally we have seen Trivida here as tyaga in three modes. This is certainly going to come later. But Ramanuja has defined this part as tyaga of three types. That means these three things should be there. Why is saying that? Because samprakirtita already described. So three modes, tyaga in three modes is not already described. That is going to be described. Because the word samprakirtita is said, it means already described. So already described means these three are only described in the past in the Bhagavad Gita. So like that he has taken. Okay, so what this means is, okay, so let's try to understand the meaning. The meaning is that one has to do these three types of, one has to do all the three. So please try to understand. We said karma is of three types. I'm recapping. Nitya karma, done periodically. Naimitika karma, time emergency based. Kamya karma, out of pleasure you may do. Out of, kamya karma literally means out of desire. Okay. So the point is these three things done using these three tyagas. That means a Vaishnava or the perfect understanding of Bhagavad Gita is you will do Nitya Karma, you will do Naimitika Karma, you will do Kamya Karma also. Okay. Because otherwise the question is why are all these kings like Yudhishthir Maharaj and so many other kings we read, right? They're doing so many sacrifices. Why they're doing that? Actually, all those sacrifices are there if you want to go to the heaven, etc. Why they're doing that? That is Kamya Karma. They're doing that because these are all said in the Veda, Shastra, so one has to do it. But one has to do with these three types of tyaga. Kartritva buddhi tyaga, phala tyaga, and mamata tyaga. So all three things. Correct. Now let's see what Krishna is going to say. Huh? Look at this. Fifth verse. Yajnadana tapak karma na tyajyam karyam eva tat. Yajnodanam tapascheva pavanani manishina. Look at that, what Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying here that yajna, charity and austerity, which are actions enjoined in the scripture, should never be renounced at any time. See, please remember, yajna means all type of yajna. See, everything is considered a yajna only here. Okay, so the Brahmana teaching in a Gurukul is a yajna. The Kshatriya plowing the field is a yajna. The Vaishya, the Kshatriya fighting the battle is a yajna. And there are, so yajna has to be taken in a very broad sense of the term, as we have seen before. Yajna, dana, tapa, which are actions in the scripture, should never be renounced at any time. And they should be performed till the upasana completes and person attains liberation. The yajna, charity, and the austerities are enjoined in the scripture, which are performed with upasakas, act as purifiers. Okay, now see. Now Krishna is slowly coming to his opinion. What is Krishna's opinion? Let's see. See, why we should do all three. That is the point. So please remember, we earlier described four strategies. One is I will do only Nitya Naimittika, but I will not do Kamya. Second is I will do all three, but I will not be attached to the fruit. Third is I will not do any of these three, like the Advaita Sannyasi. And the fourth is I will do all three, but I will have three types of Tyaga as a part of it. Okay. So the thing is, the first and the third is what is being discussed here. What was the first strategy? I will not do Kamya Karma. And third strategy was what? I will not do any of the three. Like the Advaita Sannyasi says. So what is, so because the Advaita Sannyasis, the Sankhyas, as I said earlier, their approach is that once you have a desire to achieve Brahman, then you give up all karma. You don't do anything. That is their thing. Now what is Krishna saying? See, Krishna is saying, Karyam eva tat. Karyam eva, look at how he has translated Karya eva. Okay. Karya eva matlab must be done. Till when it must be done? till you get liberation. So that is why he says, as long as one has this body, one cannot give up karma. So that is how they are describing this. That means, so these are very, very diametrically opposite views of the Advaitavadis and the Vaishnavas here, which is, and the Vaishnavas say that, hey, look, the Gita talks about it. The Advaitavadis say, no, if you have the desire for liberation, you must give up all three. But Vaishnavas say, no, you have to do this till the end, till you get liberation. Okay, when you are actually liberated, then you may not have to do any of these things. But till that time, you have to do. Why you have to do? See, that is the point. Why you have to do? Because somebody may say, Arey, why should I do karma? Why should I do nitya karma, naimittika karma, kami? I mean, this is very important. See, because nowadays, many times, even especially when it comes to marriage, it is treated as kamya karma, and many people feel that, oh, why should I? In fact, it is increasing in modern times, where many young men and women, even as devotees, they think that why should we get married? No, but that is considered a duty. It is considered a shastric injunction that one must get married. It may be kamya or whatever, but one has to do it. One has to go through that process, right? You cannot say that I will not do it. Why? Pavanani Manishinam. See, this is the point. Any yajna that has been told in the scripture, including kamya karma, whether it is marriage, whether it is for a king, of course, Rajasu Yajna, Ashwamedh Yajna is not applicable to all of us. That's why I'm taking the example of marriage, because Vivaha is also a yajna that has to be done because Pavanani Manishita. It actually purifies a person from Rajoguna, Tamoguna. See, this is the commentary. So the commentary is that our mind has to be purified. Okay, and what is stopping our purification is Rajoguna, Tamoguna. So all types of yajnas which have been stated in the scripture will actually purify us, and one has to do it. Till when? Till death, he says. Till death, one has to do it. Okay, only when you are liberated, then you don't have to do any karma. Then there is no Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, etc. But till then, one has to do this. Okay, so then he is asking the question: is this karma going to give us moksha? He says no. Only bhakti is going to give you moksha. Then why karma has to be done? He says the karma is like a samskara. So he gives a nice example here. He says just like, in a marriage, one very important aspect of the marriage is the Mangal Sutra is tied, right, by the groom. The boy ties the Mangal Sutra to the bride. Okay, but before tying that Mangal Sutra, if you know, haldi is put on that Mangal Sutra. On the thread, haldi is put. Okay, haldi is put on the coconut, which is given, etc. So somebody may say, why is that haldi being put? That is a samskara. Okay. That samskara is done to purify it, and then the action is done. So marriage is not putting off that haldi. Marriage is actually the tying of the Mangal Sutra or whatever. But as part of that, some samskaras are. So similarly, he says here, you are going to get moksha by bhakti only. Okay, nobody by karma yoga, you cannot go back to God. But he says that the karma yoga is like the samskara. It is purifying your mind. It is removing the tamoguda, rajoguda, etc. And in that purified state, when you now start your bhakti without any impediments, you will go back to the spiritual world. So that is the commentary as given. It's a very beautiful commentary which is very relevant to everybody in the world. Okay, which is basically about Krishna is telling Arjuna that, hey Arjuna, you cannot give up anything. See, because Arjuna is thinking that Tyaga and Sannyas. See, ultimately what Krishna wants to say is that Tyaga and Sannyas, in one way, they are both same also. Okay, because Sannyas means, Sannyas basically is Tyaga and Tyaga is Sannyas. So that is, in one sense, the conclusion which, is going to come from this particular discussion. But still Krishna is favoring the mood of Tyaga more, which is very, very clear. And that comes actually in the next verse. Now look at this, how Krishna concludes his point. Text number 6. Eta napitu karmani sangam tektva phalani cha kartavyaniti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam. Hey Arjuna, son of Pritha, it is my definite and supreme view, just like the upasana, karmas like jnana, yajna, charity and austerity should always be performed for delectation of the Supreme Lord after renouncing the conviction that these karmas belong to oneself. Oneself is the doer of the karma and the benefit of the karma belongs to oneself. Okay, so what is Krishna saying now? Krishna is giving his own opinion. Okay, so somebody may say, is Krishna's opinion something different? No, Krishna's opinion is the last thing. What is Krishna's opinion? That everything should be performed. Okay, that means Nitya Karma, Nemitika Karma, Kamya Karma. All that is done, okay, but they should be done for the pleasure of the Lord. They should be done as a pleasure of the Lord. As an offering to Him, you have to do. You buy a house, you are doing your business, whatever you are doing. You're a Kshatriya, you're fighting for the country, you're a Brahmana, you're running a Gurukul, you're teaching, you're doing whatever activity you're doing. Right? Everything has to be done and it has to be done as a pleasure to the Lord after renouncing Sangam Falanicha. Sangam Falani means he repeats that point. That three type of Tyaga has to be done. Kartritva Buddhi Tyaga, that I don't think you are the doer. Mamata Tyaga, don't think the activity is for your pleasure. The activity may be in line with your Swadharma, but it is not done for your pleasure. So there are these two different things. Like for example, Arjuna is a Kshatriya. So in line with his Swadharma only, his action is there of being a Kshatriya. But still the action of a Kshatriya has to do for the pleasure of the Lord. And the fruit of it, some fruit will come. Either he will win or whatever he will get. That fruit is also for the Lord only. So this is the mood in which everything should be done. See, so beautifully Krishna has, brought this point, right? Tyaga. So what is Tyaga? And Krishna is saying that this is what must be done. Very, very clear, Krishna's opinion. Krishna has never said in the Gita that one has to give up these things. He has very clearly said it must be done, it must be done. But just give up the Sangam. Sangam means Phala Sangha, which is of three types. Doership is a Phalasanga, action is a Phalasanga, result of action is also Phalasanga. Three things we saw. Correct? So three things Krishna. Now what will Krishna do is, Krishna will now start talking about the three different types of Tyaga. That means in Tamoguna, Rajoguna and Sattoguna. Let's go into that. Text number 7. Niyatastu sannyasah karmano nopapadyate mohatasya parityagas tamasa parikirtitah. Unlike the kami karmas, abandoning the obligatory daily and occasional karma is not proper. Due to contrary knowledge that these karmas produce only bondage, renouncing these nitya naimitika karmas have been declared to be tamasic in nature, as it is due to tamoguna that this delusion is produced, which leads to improper conduct. Okay, now please try to understand this translation. Krishna is basically saying here, Niyatastu sannyasi. That means Niyata. Niyata means what? See, previously Krishna had said Kamya Karma. Now he is talking about Niyata. Niyata means what? Nitya Karma, Nemitika Karma. Correct? Okay. Unlike the Kamya Karma, there are some people who think we should give up Nitya Nemitika Karma, but that is not proper, Krishna says. And why has such an understanding come? It has come due to Moha. Moha means what? What is this Moha? Moha means illusion. So the basic understanding is, due to tamoguna, one understands something differently. This is called in Sanskrit Viparita Jnana. Viparita Jnana means contrary knowledge. Okay, Rajoguna basically causes Anyata Jnana. Anyata Jnana means Anyata Jnana. So I'll give you an example what is Viparita Jnana and Anyata Jnana. Viparita Jnana means the standard Vedantic example is, suppose you see a rope and you think it to be a snake. That is Viparita Jnana. That means you think something to be completely different. It's a fully opposite idea about it. It's a rope actually, but you're thinking it is a snake. So this is Viparita Jnana. Anyata Jnana means, so suppose let us say somebody has jaundice and he looks at a conch. The conch is white in color, but because of jaundice, you see it as yellow in color. So this is called Anyata Jnana, where at least you are seeing the conch. In Viparita Jnana, you have not understood the item at all. In Anyata Jnanam, at least you understood it is a conch. Just that the color now you are not able to see white, you are seeing yellow. That is called Anyata Jnana. Okay, so here this is called Viparita Jnana. Viparita Jnana means contrary understanding you have got due to Moha. What is that? Giving up Nitya Naimittika. Okay, giving up what you must do. So if anybody thinks that what they have to do as per their basic varnashram, one gives that up. that is considered, because giving it up is considered completely matlab, out of illusion only. Somebody is thinking that I don't have to do my duty. Okay. And that understanding is considered tamasic. Suppose somebody does like that, then one is tamasic. So here in the commentary, Ramanujacharya is very heavy, saying that the Advaitavadis who give up nitya naimittika karma, okay, so that is not approved, he says, as per this verse of the Gita, because you cannot give up what you have to do daily and occasionally. That is why, as I said earlier, the Vaishnava sannyasi doesn't give up the sacred thread, but the impersonalists, they give up that, right? So this is they don't see this as part of the Gita, right? Because Krishna is very clear that you cannot give up nitya karma, right? Yeah. So again, Ramanujacharya brings in the whole third chapter over here, saying that why you cannot give up. He says first thing, you cannot give up because even for your body you need to do karma. He reminds us of 3.8 Bhagavad Gita, Niyatam Guru Karma. That means Sharira Yatra Pitate. Just to maintain the body also you have to do karma. That he reminds. And then he also says that only when you do karma yoga, then you have some fruits. And that fruits, if you offer to the Lord, you are going to get purified. Yajna Shista Shara Santovras. Okay, so two reasons. One is that for the body also you need to do karma yoga. And how will you worship the Lord without any fruit? That fruit you will get by doing karma yoga only, and that fruit only you are going to offer to the Lord. So he says that giving up nitya naimittika karma, that means if Arjuna thinks he can give up kshatriya dharma, Chhatra dharma he can give up. That is his nitya karma. If he thinks he can give up, that is tamasa uchyate. That is tamo guna. Okay, now look at rajo guna. Huh? This is going to be different. In rajo guna, look at verse number 8. Dukkha mityeva yak karma kaya klesha bhayatyajit sakritva rajasam tyagam neva tyaga phalam labhyate. He who gives up karma believing that these karma involve monetary expenses, performing such karma involve a lot of physical hardship, and thus overall such karmas lead to depression in mind. Such a person performs renunciation in the mode of Rajoguna and he does not attain the fruit of proper renunciation. Okay, so Rajoguna means, see, in Rajoguna he has understood that karma must be done. But Anyata Jnanam, what is Anyata Jnanam? Anyata Jnanam is thinking, oh, it is so difficult. So many people think, especially young people. I know many, I've come across many such boys also, right? Remaining unmarried for a long time. If you tell them get married, arey, why so difficult it is. जीवन अच्छा चल रहा है ना जैसे चल रहा है. Why get married and get into all this? So much problem is there. Correct? Kaya klesha, thinking that this is all involving hardship. No, you cannot think. So Ramanuja reminds us of this point. See, any yajna that is mentioned in the Shastra is ultimately going to purify you. But staying away from that, thinking that this is very troublesome. So in the previous verse, what happened is he gave up because of complete contrary understanding. That means he thought that that is to be a enemy of moksha. So suppose somebody like Arjuna, suppose if he thinks that Kshatriya Dharma is the enemy of moksha, let me give it up, then that is tamoguna. But suppose Arjuna understands, no, Kshatriya Dharma is good, but it is very difficult, I don't want to do it, then that is Rajoguna. So if both of it is giving it up, he is giving up the action, but he is giving up the action out of a different mindset. In one, he is giving up an action thinking that this is detrimental to moksha, that is tamoguna. Here is giving up that action thinking that it is very difficult for the body and the mind. Okay, so like for example, Ramanuja reminds us of the verse. Arthanam arjane dukkham arjitanam cha rakshane aye dukkham yeye dukkham dik arthaha artha samshraya. Okay, so there is a verse that says Arthanam arjane dukkham, very difficult to earn money. Arjitanam cha rakshane, very difficult to protect the earned money. Aye dukkham, ye dukkham. Earning money is difficult, spending is also difficult. Big artha, to hell with artha. Like that, if somebody thinks, he says that he is mistaken. Why he is mistaken? Because unless you have artha, how are you going to do all the other activities? Right? So, if you think like this about money, if you think like this about every aspect of life, that this is painful, marriage is painful, working in the world is painful, doing the daily duties is very painful. Let me give it up. Then he says this is Rajoguna renunciation. Na labhe tyaga phalam. He is not going to attain anything from this. Okay, so he reminds us that to do bhakti, one needs peaceful mind, and to do peaceful mind, one has to be situated in one's karma perfectly. Then only one's lower moods are cleaned up, and one will have a peaceful mind. Okay. Ramanuja concludes this particular verse by saying, when you do your karma as per dharma and Paramatma is pleased, then mind will not be disturbed and one will not come to such faulty conclusions. Now Krishna is talking about Satvika Tyaga. So this word Satvika Tyaga, Ramanuja and his followers, they use it very greatly in their understanding. Satvika Tyaga means anything that is to be done has to be done with a mood of Satvika Tyaga. Satvika Tyaga means what? Those three types of Tyaga. Kartritva Buddhi Tyaga, Mamata Tyaga, Phala Tyaga. That is, I am not doing, Krishna is using me as an instrument. This activity is for his pleasure. The fruit of this activity is also for his pleasure. With these three concepts only, one should do any activity. And if you do it like that, then you have what is called as Satvika Tyaga. And if you have Satvika Tyaga, they say you're rightly situated as per Bhagavad Gita. And that is now coming in this verse. 18th chapter, text number 9. Karya mityeva yat karma niyatam grete Arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam cheva satyaka satviko mata. Hey Arjuna, those nitya naimittika which are performed with the understanding that performing these karmas constitute worship of Bhagavan, performing them is one's duty with the relinquishment of attachment to the karma and the fruit. Such a renunciation is considered satvika. That means one understands that anything that is done, I should do it as an offering to him, and I should do it with these type of tyagas. So this we have already explored in great detail, correct? So if you do like this, then you are considered as Satvika Tyaga. And Satvika Tyaga is considered extremely important in anything one does, right? So I think with this I will stop for the day and we'll take some questions, or maybe we'll just take one or two more verses. Okay, I'll just take two more verses. I'll conclude this section. 10th and 11th verses also there. न द्वेष्टि अकुशलं कर्म कुशले नानुसज्जते त्यागी सत्व समाविष्टो मेधावी चिन्ह संशयः. The man of renunciation who is imbued with sattva guna. Okay, one who has the satvika tyaga, he acquires clear knowledge of tattvas as taught by his preceptors. See, Krishna is giving like a falashruti. What happens if you do satvika tyaga? His doubts regarding the tattvas have been completely clear. Does not hate the karmas which produce disagreeable sinful results, nor is eager to perform which produce agreeable pious results. See, beautiful. He has given some characteristics. See, because somebody may say, how do I know that I am in Satvika Tyaga? How do I know that I am actually doing Satvika Tyaga? This is not just a mental adjustment or a statement to make. It has to be clear from your actions. Okay, so what is the action? So 2-3 things he has said. See, first thing is Sattva Guna. See, Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna, they have very clear indications. Okay. So Ramanujacharya quotes from the Mahabharata, Moksha Parva. Okay, what are the indications of Sattva Guna? What are the indications of Rajo Guna? What are the indications of Tamo Guna? I'll read those verses. Tatra yat priti sanyuktam kaye manasi bhavayet vartate satviko bhava iti apeksha chatattata. That means when the mind body has a clarity, happiness and a feeling of prasannata, then one has Sattva Guna. So he says, how to understand you have Sattva Guna? 3 things. You should have a great clarity of thought. You should have a sense of happiness in your body and mind and a feeling of satisfaction, prasannata. If this is there, then Sattva. Okay. Rajoguna, what is the main lakshan? He says, Yattu santapa sanyuktam apriti karam atmanaha pravrittam raja itkeva tatastam abhichintayet. Santapa, agitation. He says the main character of Rajoguna is that person is agitated. Okay, always he is undergoing santapa. This is the second thing. Then for Tamoguna he says, Atayena moha sanyuktam kaye manasi bhavet aprat pratyajnam avijnaya tamastam udare. Tamoguna means one has moha. Basically, one is under illusion. Okay, so three things is this. Sattva guna means one has happiness, a feeling of satisfaction. Rajo guna is agitation, and tamo guna means moha or wrong understanding. Completely viparita jnana. Your contrary understanding. Okay. So here he says that the characteristic that one is in sattva guna and doing tyaga in sattva guna is that his doubts are destroyed. Okay. He has very clear understanding of tattvas. Medhavi means tattva. I mean, whatever tattvas are there, he has understood properly. And see, the other thing is also important. Huh? See, the last part. Karmas which produce disagreeable, sinful reaction, he does not hate. See, what does that mean? So, Ramanuja gives a very interesting commentary. He says here, when we are acting in this world, because somebody may say, Are, does it mean that Sattva person he does something wrong and he doesn't hate it? That means sab kuch chalta hai. Is that his attitude? He says, no. What that means is, in this world, inevitably, sometimes by mistake or inattention, one may do something wrong also. He says, when you do something wrong also, don't overly condemn yourself. That means once it can happen when you are doing karma. See, that is the problem of karma. Na? See, this is the problem by the Advaitavadis, what they said. Any karma can lead to problems, so better give up all karma. That is their attitude. The Vaishnava attitude is that no, even when you are doing karma, due to inattention, due to some mistake, once a while some disagreeable thing may happen. Do not hate that too much. Because if you hate it too much, what will happen? Eventually you will come to that same Advaitavadi understanding. You will think, let me not do anything. Correct. But that is not so. Krishna is so practical. He is making this point very clear that in the world you may do something wrong once a while, but don't become too averse to it. Don't condemn yourself too much because of that. Okay, and don't think that I will do only things which will always give good fruits. It doesn't happen in the world. Once a while, everybody does some mistake. Correct. So overly being critical of oneself is again not considered sattva. That's what you understand from this verse. It's a very, very important verse actually. To think about it because it has a connection to everything. Because overly being critical makes one go away from karma. Okay, just imagine the institution of marriage, right? If two people too much condemn the problems of marriage, think that oh marriage will this will happen, that will happen, then what will happen? Eventually they will not do it. And that's what is happening in the modern world also. That tyaga either is in rajoguna or tamoguna, depending on the person. But it is not in sattoguna. Sattoguna means the action is never given up only. Only those three tyagas are done. Tatritva buddhi, mamata buddhi and phalatyaga. But the action itself is never given. It's a beautiful thing. Gita is so beautiful, right? The last verse we will see. नहि देहभृतां शक्यं त्यक्तुं कर्मण्य शेषतः यस्तु कर्म फलत्यागी सत्यागित्यभिधीयते. For anyone who possesses the body, it is indeed impossible to give up actions in their entirety. See, Krishna is again saying the same thing. Thus, the person who performs all the karmas as allotted to him as per his class and station in life, with the threefold renunciation, such a person is tyagi. Krishna has very clearly said. Tyagi means what? One has to stick to the action, but give up that three things, sangha, which we discussed several times in today's class. Right. So with this, Krishna is now about to end this particular section. We will continue this next time. It's almost done. Right. Let's take any questions, if any. Anybody with any question? Please. There was one in the chat. Can we give up Kamya Karma as part of this verse? No, as part of the understanding here, Kamya Karma is also not given up. That's why I said, right? Kshatriyas are also doing Kamya Karma. Right? Arjuna, Yudhishthira Maharaj is expanding his kingdom. He is sending all the four brothers to four different directions and he is doing a big Ashwamedh Yajna, all this. So Kamya Karma is also done. But only because Kamya Karma, it is said in the scripture, right? The scripture tells the Kshatriya that they can do such yajnas. So Kamya Karma is also done, but just that you don't do it for that Kamna. You don't do it for the fruit, but you do it for the pleasure of the Lord. So that is the point.
As continuation, Prabhuji, like Kamya Karma is not something which is entire asked by the scriptures to do specifically, right? It's only chosen by the Karta, right?
Yes.
Ultimately, even if one is not doing it, it is not going to accrue any sin. But in case of Nitya Naimitika, one
Yeah.
doesn't do it. Maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
correct. Right. What you're saying is right, but the commentary what Ramanuja is given here is from the text number 2 onwards. We discussed that, right? And we gave example also. Is it necessary for a Kshatriya to do all these big yajnas? No, it's not. I mean, there are so many great Kshatriyas who may have not done some yajnas like that, right? But still they do it as a pleasure to the Lord because it is stated in the scripture. So like that he says. Is that okay?
okay.
Yeah, like that. So that's why even in Madhva also, if I'm not mistaken, they have a similar understanding only. That's why they do all type of yajnas. They recite all type of Vedic mantras because the Vedas are there means one has to respect it by reciting the Vedas by doing those yajnas. But
Yeah.
that one will not do it to go to the heaven. One will do it for Bhagavad Prityartham, for the pleasure of the Lord. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. So even they worship Devatas, they worship.
Yeah, this is all coming from
God.
this
Yeah.
concept only. That Kamya Karma is done not for the Kamana, but just done because the Vedas say do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very interesting commentary. And if you think about it in the logic of the Gita and the total Mahabharata, it fits under it, right? Because that's what the Gita is talking. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Prajendra Kumar, you had a question?
So, Prabhu, I have my question, and Chakrapani Prabhu asked this question, right? So, this karma karma, I mean, devotees will do to set the examples also, right? Like Janak Maharaj and all. So, that is also one of the purpose, right?
Yeah, you can say that. Certainly.
Okay.
To set an example as a pleasure to the Lord, not for the result. That is certain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, Prabhu, you were comparing Advait sannyasis with Vaishnav sannyasis, but within Vaishnavas, we have examples like Avadhuta and Jadabharat and Rishabdev. How to see them with compared to Advait sannyasis, because they also gave up Nitya karmas, Kamya karma, everything they gave up. Rishabdev, Jadabharat, and Avadhuta. So how to see that, because they can say these are also Advaits and these are also behaving like Advait sannyasis. One can say like
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're saying. So that stage of Paramahamsa, na, where one is beyond Varnashram, is not accepted in the traditional sampradaya. So see, I mean, we are not challenging their action. Rishabh,
that.
without any clothes, he was just moving about as a Paramahamsa, completely not doing any karma at all, just lying in one place like a python. Whatever comes, he would eat. He would pass stool and roll over it only. The Bhagavatam describes all this.
Hmm.
But in terms of the Gita, Krishna doesn't talk about that as a method. See, because you have to remember the psychology of the book Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a book which is more primarily for by and large people in the world how they should live. So, someone who may be a Paramahamsa may take that stance of living like that. Okay, Krishna will accept him. There's no question about that. But in terms of a system, it is never done like that. Okay, so Krishna is talking about a system in the Bhagavad Gita. As a system, that's not how it is. Okay, that's why if you see even sannyas, the stage of sannyas which is beyond varnashram is not there in any traditional sampradaya. So, they will remain a sannyasi with a sacred thread doing everything, but they never go beyond that. Like that. So for example, even the Babaji Vesha, which we talk about right in Gaudiya, that Babaji Vesha doesn't come under the ambit of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, it is not to say that it is not authorized or something. Somebody, obviously, people who are Paramahamsas, like Gaur Kishore Babaji, they look like that. But that's not how the Gita is recommending one lead one's life. someone out of his extraordinary capacity to do something may have done like that and have lived life like that. But that's not the recommendation of Krishna here in Bhagavad Gita. It is, in one sense, you could say it's beyond the Gita. Certainly, those who were great and who actually lived like that, like Gaur Kishore Babaji was, right? He was not doing anything that the Bhagavad Gita says. He was chanting japa in a public latrine, right? Which is not coming anywhere in the Gita, that one could live life like that. It's in one sense, it's beyond this particular level. As a system, it doesn't fit in the Gita. And as a recommendation, it doesn't fit in for anybody, which I think makes sense because there were many more dongis who were like that Babajis than genuine Babajis. Correct? So, for every one Gaur Kishore Babaji, there were 100 other dongi fellows who were cheating people by living like a Babaji, but who were not even competent to live like that. So, it's not like a recommendation of the Gita. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhuji, as a follow-up for this, can we say Gita is recommending one to live within Varnashram and then try to get out of the material world?
Yeah, of course, without a question. Gita is, the whole Gita is to ensure that Arjuna is in Varnashram. And that's very clear, right, from the beginning to the end. Krishna is never giving up Varnashram. And that's why I said, in the traditional Sampradayas, they never give up Varnashram. Whether it is Madhva or Sri also, they remain sannyasi. Even the Madhva sannyasis, they have the sacred title, right? Chakrabarti Vishnu.
I'm not 100% sure, but mostly they may have. I'll just confirm if required. Yeah.
It's not like the Advaita sannyasi who gives up sacred title. They remain under the ambit of Varnashram. That transcending thing is not there here. You transcend when you have gone back to Godhead as a system. See, in their system also, there may have been people who were completely transcendental, like if you see the Alvars, etc. Many of them were completely transcendental, right? They were beyond all definitions of Varnashram. So they also have like that examples, like how we talk about Babajis or something. But as a system, that's not recommended. That's not the process. The process is you stay in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense? Any other question related to the theme here? Okay.